All right, hey, what's going on, guys? This is Why I Did It, episode number 5 with Dr. Walid Al-Bermani and Osama Saket. How are you guys? How's things? Hope you had a great week. So, we want to talk about a few things today. Hey,
Yeah, we've got a few interesting topics. There's a lot of changes happening in the world and a lot of exciting things, a lot of crazy and scary things. So excited to just, cover it all, see what we can talk about tonight. It'd be nice.
that would be. I think like there's one new thing like I've been kind of eyeing out for a while, and it's been on my mind for some time now because there's so many people coming up with like new startup ideas, and it's quite different to like a normal concept of normal business because they like see a trend and they just jump on it really quickly and they try to flip a business model based on that, and it's like they hope they throw things on the wall and hope for it to stick. Like
Yes.
there's a few guys that I personally know that started like really good AI based companies,
Hmm.
and they're getting so much traction more than their other previous projects because those kind of companies are now like the new best thing. It's kind of reminds me of those crypto guys back then. They'd find this coin that they would launch because it's a trending topic, and like Shiba Inu, whatever, they would just jump on and just pump it up all the way to the max. It's similar with AI. What do you think? Have you seen a little bit of that in your own world?
Yes, the only thing that I would say is quite different to crypto from my perspective is that I can see that AI can bring a lot of views and a lot of value to, I think, everybody. Whereas crypto, I think the people that jumped on and made money of it made money off, very specific ways that I don't think brought much value to people.
Hmm.
And that's why I didn't jump on the crypto hype. And yeah, maybe I didn't even, I didn't make any money on it. And, but I see AI as really is a useful tool that would change the world. And yes, a lot of people are jumping on it, and some of them are just very gimmicky. And it's hard to find what's a, good useful tool and what's gimmicky. So we're going to see a lot of that now.
That's true. That's true. I think like there's a problem with like AI for the most part where, well, at least let's start with crypto. Like crypto didn't really like it solved a lot of small problems, but really it kind of also made them difficult. Like if you think about it, like it's probably easier for me to send you physical money than it is to send you crypto, right? Like I don't have to ask for your address; it's just a
I agree.
straight up
Yeah.
bank account. And now it's even like at least in Australia using OSCO, it's mobile number which you already have in
Yep.
your contact details, and it's immediate,
Yes,
and
exactly.
it's very hard to like fraud things like that. Whereas like crypto, you send it to a wallet, very hard to like. There's no police in crypto, right? Like if you get scammed, there's nobody. Like
Mm,
more than ever,
mm.
do we actually technically feel like we need some regulation there? Right? There's so many
And that's where it was
scams.
sad.
Yeah, it
I,
is.
I, I think that's why it collapsed because like rather than people using it for what its true purpose, a lot of it was just scams. And I'm sure you heard about the whole Logan Paul situation, creating the gamifying crypto and then not paying the people that actually believed in him and invested in him and all. So unfortunately, that's where crypto has failed people. And I'm hoping that ChatGPT wouldn't be the same because I truly believe that there's a value in it and it can enhance people. So we'll see how it goes.
I think it'll be interesting. It'll be quite like interesting to see like would people take advantage of this new thing? I'm sure they will,
Yeah.
but like would they take advantage as much, and would it actually solve a problem or create more problems? Like who knows? I don't know. What do you guys think? Like in the comments down below, let us know. Do you actually think AI is going to be a good use, or is it going to be something that's more like a bad use and we need to put a stop on it? Because there's a lot of call for regulation, and I like even in Australia, like they just released these new laws where like one of the main things they want to fund is implementing AI, which is crazy. Like you never see governments talking about these
Yeah.
things. Throughout the entire cryptocurrency, Australian government stayed silent for the most part.
Yeah.
Yet this thing
Yeah.
comes in and they start to actually put
Do you
some
know why?
laws.
Like what, like there's a reason behind it because crypto, like nobody would want to and allow, creating a new currency that can't be monetized, controlled by, sorry, by the banks. Whereas with ChatGPT and AI, if they don't jump on it, the government would lose, you know?
True.
We've got a friend of ours who's basically a literary waste of the government, and hopefully one day we'll get him on the podcast. And he was just talking about, implementing systems and using AI to improve development in Australia from Queensland to every other state, using the data that they currently have and using AI to basically help them improve current development processes as well as funding and everything. So every single system in pretty much every aspect of the government, sooner or later will be including AI into it. If they don't, they're going to miss out.
Yes, I do think they're jumping in it because they see it as an existential risk instead of like cryptocurrency.
Yep.
They knew like, yeah, some people will use it, but it's very unlikely that everyone will band up and just choose some, coin a guy made in his basement, right?
They controlled
Yeah,
it.
well, they did, and like there was a huge like incidence, right? Like Ripple was one crypto that was kind of regulated by banks. Like
Mm,
eventually, like banks have more money than most crypto dudes out there. So if they really want to
yep.
destroy it, they can, and there's ways to do it. So
Yes.
I do
Yes.
think that's a thing, but like with AI, it is something that's going to be like quite groundbreaking, at least from in my opinion. Like seeing how it's evolved from like being involved in ChatGPT 2 all the way to like 3.5 and 4. Like it's such a huge exponential like growth that it's very hard to keep up with. And like Waleed, you know what it's like to like we try to like get on this thing, and then all of a sudden it's like moves on to like 10 different directions.
Yes.
I do think
Yeah.
like if we're like that and we got like time to read about it, like I don't know how governments with their slow processes can ever jump on board. So I think their only hope is that businesses in Australia will jump on the board and at least make it a hub for it, right? Like make Australia at least a hub for AI or
Finally, yeah, definitely. Like, and if they start doing grants on it and everything on it, like, we should definitely jump on it and make use of it. Like, uh, AI can, I believe that AI can be implemented in every aspect in every sector. So, like, anybody who's out there who hasn't looked much into it, they really should figure out a way that they could implement it into their system, whether it's a personal circumstances, whether it's their own personal business, or if they work in a corporate company and stuff like that. They should really jump on it and learn as much as possible because if they don't, the other person would, and they'll
it's
lose on it.
it's so
Um,
true.
I got a question though on
Yes,
ChatGPT.
yes,
Today I canceled my subscription. And because I wanted to give it a go and I gave it a
yeah.
good go for a month, it didn't provide me with any extra, like I honestly didn't think it would. I thought it was going to be faster, but it wasn't faster. And it didn't give me anything different to what Chat 3.5 did. And even sometimes when they say, they're giving to you that you'll be able to log in, if you try to log into ChatGPT and it says that, the quota is full, just go into incognito and then you'll be able to log in. I don't know if you noticed that. So
I
yeah,
might need to remove this. Hey, from like hide it away from the pod. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want them
but
to
no,
know
it's,
these.
it's the truth. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and like, and when I canceled, you know what it said? And this is the funny thing about this company because they want to keep people on. They said, "Oh, can you tell us the reason why you're canceling?" And then the next question was like, "Would you regret it if the price is going up and you can't access ChatGPT for free anymore?" You know? So like they obviously they monetized it and they lost the its true ethos of making it an open source. And but I'm happy also, and I'm looking forward to the competition that's going to come out with Google and Amazon. And there's a lot happening in that realm. And I don't like it when there's only one player controlling everything. So it's good that there's going to be different options. So I'm looking forward to that. What do you think?
Look, I don't know. Like, it depends how much you use it, and like, are you actually limited by those delays? I don't think like at the moment it's quite limited. Like, I think their
Yeah,
servers are quite good, but I
yeah,
mean, would they become something like that's going to be payment only? I completely think they will.
yeah,
Like, I'm pretty sure it's
yeah,
costing them millions to run at this point, and it's Microsoft has a big hand in it, and I mean,
Let's
Microsoft
find
doesn't
out
hand anything for
actually.
free, right? Like, so I don't think like I think it's probably useful if you use it for the full like if your job relied on it, which yours doesn't.
Hmm.
I would pay for it because I would rather that guarantee that it will work,
Of
and
course,
maybe
yeah,
also
yeah,
like the way I see it is like okay, if everybody's using the free model and I'm using the paid model, the hope is that
yeah,
you're getting some newer output, some newer features. If
yeah.
that gives you a small competitive edge, then yes, I would
100%.
consider
Yeah,
paying
yeah,
for it.
yeah.
But
That's what I
your
was testing
perspective,
for. Yeah,
I don't think you use it every day. Like I work, like I went to WeWork this morning, and like there are a lot of people that use ChatGPT every day, part of their daily lives,
yep,
and they use it part of their business. They use it to write emails. They use it to write to respond to messages. They use it to write like LinkedIn posts. I think if that's your use case, then yes, it's worth it because A, you're
yeah,
supporting the project at the same time. B, you're using it and taking advantage of it.
yeah.
Whereas like if you,
Apparently, I just looked it up. It
yeah,
costs 700,000 per day to run it.
well there you go. I mean, I'm sure like
That's like
their
100,000.
valuations now, and if they want to get people in, like they'll get funding for that stuff, no
Yeah,
issues.
yeah,
And the thing is with those is like they become exponentially cheaper because once you train the model, you don't need it to run the same at the same level. Like
yeah,
I remember when I was crunching AI, was crunching initially like a big huge database using AI, and I was just essentially like stemming it and making sure that that data was valuable. at the beginning part it's expensive, but once you get that formula, like you don't need that
Yeah.
much. You just need the database, which is yes expensive to store, and yes cloud computing is expensive, and using servers is
Yes.
expensive. But
Yes.
I don't think they're idiots. Like I don't think if they're losing that much money, they would keep it open. Like you know what I mean? But
No, no, but they're gonna monetize it. It's definitely gonna happen.
they
So
will.
moving on from that, then obviously, I don't know if you guys have seen Elon Musk's latest interview, and so he's, as we all know, he's basically is against the idea of monetizing and letting ChatGPT run without putting any regulations on it. So he's a big advocate of basically putting a pretty much a freeze or at least like a hold on the entire system. And so yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Are you talking about like the his own model?
Not just his model, but also like suggesting that, getting people to sign a petition to try and basically put a bit of a freeze on the whole AI movement. It's expanding too quickly that he's worried that, it might cause problem without putting any regulations in place about it, you know?
I think he has genuine concerns, but at the same time, I think he has some maybe not as genuine concerns. Like he probably also feels like he's missed the boat. Like he's the kind of person that would take his ball and like leave if you were all playing in the streets, right? Like he'd be like upset, make a fight with somebody, pick up his ball and just leave. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I get what you're
he's not
saying.
the kind of person to like I do think he generally feels like he's missed the boat and he's not part of the conversation and he wants to get
Really?
involved. I
Interesting.
do, but at the same time, I do think he has genuine concerns that he sees that things are getting out of control. Like
But
I
have you
think
seen the interview that where he
I did.
spoke about what he
I
said?
have seen it,
Yeah.
and like he's look, he's a good businessman, and he's also like, I think in his mind he does a lot of things that make sense, and I do think he's probably
Hmm.
really saying, hey, look, if you don't control this, it's going to be bad, and he's been advocating well before like ChatGPT
Yeah,
about
of
like
course. Yeah, AI.
regulation of AI. Like there's videos of him on Joe Rogan podcast talking about like what keeps you up on night, and he's thinking about those
Mm.
things. He's thinking
Yes, I
like
remember.
how his AI is going to go out of control, and I
Mm.
don't think his concerns are not genuine. I think they are. But I
Yeah,
also think like part of him pushing this new trend is he will still wants to be part of that bigger conversation about AI because he sees it as
of
his
course.
baby and he's something
Yeah,
that he kick-started with his friends, if you will, and now it's like, oh,
100%.
it's no longer like he's no longer part of it. I do think there should be regulation. Let's start with that. And I never say that thing in general,
Yes.
but in this instance, I still think like regulation is important.
Yes.
However, I think regulation should be also kept open. You shouldn't say, hey, this group can do it, but that group cannot do it. Or, this country can do it, but another country cannot do it. So I think all
Well, that's where
countries
the
have to
problem is going to
sit
happen.
together
Exactly.
and say, like, okay, we're all going to make this thing. Because if one
Yes.
country says, no, I'm not doing it, I'm just going to let it run, then,
Hmm.
it's like allowing a country to run like weapons. Like they all has to agree on it. Otherwise, it makes no sense. Like we can talk about it, we can make conferences, but if you don't
Mm-mm.
set up all together and say, hey, this is what we need to do to make sure that for the continuity of humanity, for the continuity of jobs, for a good economy, we need to actually sit down and put those lines. Like everybody agrees that we shouldn't have things like trafficking, we shouldn't have things like drugs. So why don't we sit down and talk about the other things that can have a great impact on us as well?
I agree with you, but I think we can also see the direction that this is going to head down towards. It's definitely going to have a bad side to it as well. You can't have the good without the bad. We can't have the bad without the good. So like even they say the godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, who just quit Google because he's been warning people about the dangers of the misinformation that they've been passing on. And there's going to be bad stuff to come with this, 100%. You know what I mean? So like, and it's already out there and you can't even regulate it. What I think is going to be very concerning is for the people who would just take AI and what it feeds them and run with it. So like, and that can happen to, the children. That can happen to like schools, if they start teaching children and like, if a student today jumps on ChatGPT and asks a question, and if he just basically gets a spit out answer, for him, he might just run with that. He would just believe it. So may fall into the same trap as the media. So like, and if Microsoft is monetizing it, and if there's more control like that, it's gonna become very biased. So we're gonna definitely see the bad as well.
It makes sense. It makes sense. I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? I'm actually quite interested, and maybe like you can put us in the comment. Like, we actually want this space to be a bit engaging. I know Walid and I talk about it, but we're genuinely curious about this. Like, Walid and I can talk on the phone. Like, if we didn't want to share this with you
Yeah.
guys, we could. We generally want to know, like, What do you guys think about it? Like, what are your concerns are, and maybe you can give us some kind of insight if you were kind of involved in AI or you're fearing something about your specific job or role in AI. I'm actually happy to listen to this and maybe like address it in our next episode. We're interested in
Exactly.
what you guys think about it.
Exactly. So tell me, Osama, you also had a chat recently with Martin Shkreli, and so a bit of Twitter back and forth. So he's obviously also jumping onto the AI bandwagon. So like, do you want to give us a bit of an insight about it?
Yes, I can. But first,
Give us a bit of a background about him as well, like Martin. He's
I will.
infamous.
So about Martin, actually, I need to do something first.
Yeah.
So why do you want it?
It's good goddamn business. And if I don't buy it, someone else will, and that will be very, very bad for my business.
All right, that was a quick ad, but yeah, let's get back
Welcome
into
back,
it.
guys.
So, okay, for those of you who don't know, because we're basically doing this on both YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, you should go on YouTube and find us. And if you're not on Spotify or Apple Podcast, find us there. The podcast is called Why I Did It, and I'll stop there and get back into the story. For those of you who don't know, like for anybody who doesn't know about Martin Shkreli, Martin Shkreli is that guy that they call him the pharma bro. He's a guy that if you read the news, he jacked up the price of this medication that was used for HIV, and he basically got eventually in trouble for other things. I mean, he had a lot of hate. He was like probably the most hated guy on the internet for some time now. And then eventually, he got in trouble with the law about some fraudulent transactions, and he kind of defrauded some investors. And eventually,
Just a nice guy.
yeah, just a lovely guy. But anyways, he served his time, and eventually he was released.
Yeah.
And I've been on Twitter for some time now, and I'm trying to like get more involved in Twitter because I've been loving this space ever since like Elon took Twitter. It's actually been good, not bad, in my opinion. And the reason I like it is a lot of those people that kind of got silenced during those like who's right and who's wrong. They're
Yep.
kind of back now, and I'm actually interested in seeing both sides of the story. Like the reason why we
Exactly.
made this podcast was to see why people did it. We would rather talk to those people with maybe a bit more controversial views than normal, or people that might be understood or misunderstood differently. We want to give them a voice, and we truly believe that there should be platforms for that. Like we like to understand why people did it, and the reason why I'm on Twitter is I'm trying to find those people. I'm trying to find
Exactly.
the Andrew Tates of the world, the Martin
Yes.
Shkreli's of the world. I'm interested in their story. I'm not interested in like judging them. That's like if I sit
Yes.
with you over coffee, I'll tell you what I really think about them. But from a public perspective, I'd rather understand the story. So going back
Exactly.
to
Yep.
Martin Shkreli, he's this big pharma boy. He got in prison for 5 years, comes out, and the minute he comes out, a few things happen, right? Like first, he launches this like crypto related to pharmacy, and then the second thing is he comes up with this AI that's like related to like medicine. It's quite interesting. It's called Dr. Gupta.ai, and the way it works is basically
Which I'm sorry to interrupt right there. I think it's a terrible name because in Australia, Dr. Gupta is Dr. Death, which is the worst form of name that you could choose, I reckon.
do you want to tell us why?
Well, there's a guy called Dr. Death who literally was a general practitioner, I think, somewhere in rural Australia, and he was doing surgeries and killed a lot of patients. His name was Dr. Gupta, and he was labeled Dr. Death. So I don't think that was a good choice of name for his company. But
Fair.
it's Martin.
Fair enough, fair enough. Look, the story of his like he basically like released this thing where like he's pretending to be a doctor, like the AI is pretending to be a doctor, like it's synced with like some databases that are like medical journals, and it kind of you ask it questions and it replies, and it's not free, it's actually paid, so you only get like
Yeah.
4 or 5 questions before there's a paywall. But the idea of it is like he's training these models to create a talking AI model, which is quite interesting. Like I'm all for the innovation of AI, and this is one interesting use case. But at the same time, Martin Shkreli had to be Martin Shkreli. He got caught up because he's trying to do this pharmacy thing. He's banned
Yes.
from being in the pharmacy scene. This is like touching, so close to the pharmacy. He's in like,
Yeah.
not pharmacy, but I'll do medicine. But anyways, he's from aside from that, like I've talked to him a few times on Twitter. He eventually followed me, and he actually got banned. But when I talked to him, he was genuinely a nice guy. Like from my conversations with him, he was completely normal. And I like sometimes I question people like, are they just there for the show? Are they showman people that just wanna pretend to be certain way in public, but they're generally nice in person, maybe. We would love to have Martin Shkreli. Maybe we can talk to him about it. But
Yeah.
my summary from what I have seen interacting with him, he's a very smart guy. He's telling me like, hey, I
Of
went to
course, it
prison
would
for
be.
5 years. I was doing a lot of like, reading. I learned crypto. I used to code. So all I did in prison was learn how to code and teaching people in the prison how to code. Practicing my skills. I knew that that's going to be the best thing. And, my timing was around the time that those things were released. So it was like, okay, perfect. I paid my dues. I've done all that. And now I'm trying to do something different. And that's kind of like his reason. Like I do have the messages with him, and he's literally told me like, this is what I'm interested in. And I talked to a developer that's actually worked in that, Dr. Gupta, and he said like, look, I watched this guy code for like 10 hours straight. And when I saw him,
Martin.
Martin, the
Yeah.
developers watched Martin code for 10 hours straight. He's like, look, this guy was really good. And I was kind of interested in the project. And eventually we talked together, and now we started this new project. So like, look,
Interesting.
all the best for
Yeah.
him. We would love to talk to him a little bit more about it. If he wants to talk to us, by all means, you
Yeah.
can reach out to us. But aside from that, like, should we touch on pharmacy as a guy who's been banned from it? No. Should you change your name? As Waleed said, probably. But at the same time, like, we do believe in second chances, and people like that can have an option to
Yeah.
change your life around. Like the whole reason they went to prison was to reform. The hope is that they did reform. Who knows? We're not here to judge it, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Should he have another chance at it, or is it something that he's doomed to ever touch anything related to healthcare or medicine or pharmacy?
It is
in general?
interesting that he's still in that realm, like the healthcare, and trying to, I guess, what is it? Introduce AI and make a chatbot that will become your next doctor. So,
Well, his
I
point
guess,
of view is like it's like the medical system at least in America is quite broken. It's very expensive to get like just small general advice
yeah,
like.
yeah,
And he reckons like, okay, if I can create something that's like scalable, that's also like low cost entry, if he can help a few people, it's better than helping no one. So he sees it like that. And I really did try to like test that model to see, is it going to give me some bad answer? It didn't. It really stuck to it, and even try to make it pretend to be something that it's not.
Is it
And
available at the moment or is it in the beta
yeah, it
version?
is. No, no. If you write drgupta.ai, it's available. It's quite interesting. It's a unique model, and the answers it gives you actually like kind of tries to link it up with like studies. Now, it doesn't always link it up properly, but it does link up sometimes. So,
Oh,
quite
interesting. I'm
interesting
just looking
model.
at it right now. So it basically asks you for your vitals, and you can enter your lab tests,
And it collects
and
them as you
then
go. By the way, like as you tell us things like, hey, I've got vomiting, nausea, whatever. It actually collects
yeah,
that data, and you see that for table fill up with those information.
yeah. So well, look, basically it's a subscription platform. So $20 a month for unlimited messages. And then you get your early access to new features, ad-free as well. So I don't know how I'd feel, to be honest with you, talking to an AI about my health. No, I don't care. Like this
Yeah.
doesn't bother me as a doctor myself. Like I'm not even worried about this. Like I guess it will come to good use for certain people that I think this would be great in a situation where, say, a parent has a small problem and worried about their child, but they're not sick enough to take him to the doctor, to the hospital, but they just want reassurance. This might be good, in that situation. But like, if people become reliant on this may cause a lot of legality issues in the future. You know what I mean? So he better have a good legal team protecting him, and I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah, like I don't know, I won't get into the legalities for sure, especially with somebody who's already been to prison. But from a perspective, like at least, is it interesting? Yes. Does it replace a doctor? I doubt it. And the reason is like there's a lot of times that it's like, oh, you need to get a medical professional to assist you. So like, what's the whole point? Why am I wasting my time here? Right?
Yeah, yeah,
There is a,
exactly.
there is a whole huge thing that's like, okay, like you're getting this advice that's questionable. The problem with medicine and what people don't realize, it's all about liability, right? Like when you see
100%.
a doctor, like you're not seeing them just for the advice, you're seeing them for also taking that responsibility from you. Like you can
Yeah,
do whatever you want with a kid, but if a doctor tells you to do something with a kid, like he's obviously responsible. You're paying
yes.
them for their responsibility, not just for their knowledge.
Yeah, yeah,
And people don't
100%.
understand that. Like it's once you solve that problem, yes, you can probably replace some doctors. And by mean some doctors, I mean a small portion of doctors that probably don't
Sure.
think that far ahead. But the majority, you're actually getting that liability. You're
Yeah,
saying, hey, I trust you with my life.
yeah,
And can you
yeah.
trust somebody with their life if they're not credible? Can you trust somebody with their life if they show you they're very confident, but maybe they're not? Who knows? Interesting
Just wondering,
space.
so sorry to interrupt, like this is not restricted to any country, is it?
I don't know. I haven't tested a VPN on like different countries, but My
Interesting.
But that would be scary, hey, because you think about it, like, okay, now if you allow it to go in Australian, does that mean you have to regulate with the APRA, regulations?
Yeah, like, because I'll be honest with you, let's have a look here. Okay, let's go on the pricing, sign up to Get Plus. Looks like you can make an account straight away. No, because this is interesting because like, I'll be honest with you, like people can easily jump on this and like you'd be surprised, like, if people can't, obviously right now there's been a lot of issues with Medicare and a lot of doctors have changed from bulk billing to private. So this will give them a different model for people who can't afford to see a doctor. But the problem is that like, will Australia put a restriction on these things? Because especially Australia, the health system, it's heavily governed and there's a lot of
Regulated. There's
restrictions.
so
So yeah,
much.
regulated like crazy.
But the
Yeah,
thing is,
so
like, look, it does say have a disclaimer before you start talking to, like, hey, I'm not a doctor, but like, if I tell you, hey, there's drugs, just don't put them in your mouth. Does that mean like you shouldn't put them in? Like you're okay to buy them, just not put them in your
yes.
mouth? You know what I mean? Like the question here is like I can put those disclaimers in, but sometimes you also have to make sure that the majority of people don't get affected by it. Like
Yeah.
if a small
Yeah.
portion of things, like that's obviously always going to be there, but like I don't know. We're not legal advice. We have no idea. We have no affiliation with anyone to start with that. But we're just
Yes.
interested in like interesting concepts. We're both in the health practitioners. We're both see patients. So for us, when we talk about these things, we're quite interested in like what are the use cases that are related to us. And I'm sure your
Yeah.
industry, as listeners, some people would work in mines, some people work in marketing. Everybody's affected differently. We're just interested in watching these spaces, and I don't
Exactly.
know. Part of it is quite
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
so we thought we could share it. And I don't know. You guys let us know. Would you ever use a doctor that's online? And
That's a really, really good question. Definitely. Would
yeah,
you, well, not a doctor that's online. No, no, no. Would you use an AI doctor?
yeah. Would you use an AI
Yeah,
doctor?
we already have a lot of doctors online right now. You can do telehealth and everything. But like, would you trust an AI to? But look, I can see they actually did a test recently on AI sitting a medical exam, and it smashed all the doctors. And it's bound to, because it's got the access to all the data in the world. So like, you can't question that. But it's never going to have the element of the consciousness to be able to know if it's doing the right thing, you know? And so, yes, it'll be a great question to see what people would think. Would you trust AI as a doctor to give you medical advice?
I know. I sit on the very edge. You know this, Walid. I sit on the very, very edge of
You do, but like I think at the end of the day, in a situation like this, you
yeah.
want the human element. Tomorrow, for example, you have a child. You don't want to regret, that listen to an AI for medical advice. You want that human element because
Yeah.
sometimes it's not even about the right diagnosis. It's about what's right by the person and the patient,
It's
you
true,
know?
and there are instances where you and I have talked about it, and you made a good case, like for the need of a human intervention, where like following standard like black and white protocol is not always the
Yeah.
right move. I
And
remember that.
unfortunately, with medicine, it's not black and white. Like, I think AI replacing lawyers, that's possible. And the reason I say that is because the law is black and white. It's not gray.
In
Whereas
some countries,
medicine is definitely gray.
in
So,
in
no, no,
some
it's true.
countries,
Yeah, I get you. But like, as long as they make an algorithm, so like for a lawyer to basically make sure that the responses are always going to be accurate by the law, then I would use it. That way it would save us from having to spend so much money on lawyers. Like, and that's not going to be a life or death situation. Like say for example right now you need to go and review, say, a contract that you're about to sign between you and a landlord. And that could cost you from a few hundred to a couple of $1,000s to get a lawyer to review it. But if you can use an AI computing system that can actually scan it for you for $20, I would do that any day.
mm,
I'd find more use in that, because it's as long as there is proof and track record that this is doing the right thing and it's definitely black and white, I find more use of that. I don't need the human element and that's no disrespect to lawyers, but like I would love to see their opinion about it because I know it's black and white as far as I'm aware.
true. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So yeah.
Should we switch to another topic?
Yes, now just an interesting topic out. I don't know if you guys know Mr. Adrian Portelli. He's definitely been in the news lately. I'm pretty sure everyone's aware about his latest ventures. He's a young entrepreneur that basically, I'm not sure exactly how he made his money, but he started a Raffle, a subscription based on like a Raffle business for cars and homes. And he's made a very, very successful business. But the latest event lately, he bought the most expensive apartment in Melbourne for $39 million. And which good on him, like bravo, like it's unbelievable. And today he had to crane up his McLaren Senna, which cost around $3 million, just to basically put it to the centerpiece in his
Jeez.
apartment. So, Adrian, if you're out there, if you ever listen to this, I would love to have you on our podcast and just to have a chat because honestly, it's an inspiration to, to see a young guy. I think he's only 34 years old to come up with such a great idea and then to reach such, big heights. And from what I hear, honestly, like he's a good, humble dude. And, but you know me, I love cars and just seeing what he's achieved and the fact that he had to get a crane to hoist his McLaren Senna all the way up to his, I think it's level 57 in the middle of the city. You guys should look it up. So yeah, shout out to Adrian Portelli.
All right, Adrian, if you're listening to this podcast or it reaches you somehow, more than happy for you to jump on and
Exactly.
tell us
Love to get your advice as well on how
tell
to,
us why you did it and how you did it.
Yeah,
That's what we want to know.
exactly. Definitely. And then I guess Usama, you wanted to talk to me about Elizabeth Holmes. Tell me,
Yes.
what's
Well,
interesting about her lately?
this is your favorite disgraced CEO. If you don't know, Theranos promised the world and gave us entertainment. That's what she gave us.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Elizabeth Holmes was this CEO of this company. It was called Theranos.
Mm,
She eventually, she was the fake Steve Jobs of the world. She was wearing the turtlenecks and the deep voice. She was the
yeah,
one that
yeah. She
was,
played it well.
yeah, shaking hands with the elite and making sure that, her life is 10 times better than everyone else. And she was invincible. She would fix, cure cancer if she wanted to. Anyways, she basically just made a reappearance on the news. And
Mm,
essentially, like, she has been waiting for this trial. And this trial basically sentenced her for prison. And I'm pretty sure she
hmm.
actually did get sentenced to prison. Like, you
Yeah.
can correct me for that. But anyways, so Elizabeth Holmes is now called Liz Holmes, right? And Liz is a nice girl. She's your she's your neighbor next door.
Yeah.
She's a mother of two. She's a one who goes to like coffee and has yoga, and
Yoga. Yeah.
she loves her kids, and she's all
Yeah.
about her family. She is a loving partner of she's a beautiful human. I don't know. What do you think? Should this woman get a fair chance? Because what's happening now is she's kind of appealing her like basically sentence because of her motherhood duties, and rest assured she got these kids while she was waiting for the prison sentence, right? And like I get it, everybody has a time clock, and we're not here to judge that, but is she any better than somebody who has dodged taxes or somebody who has stolen and defrauded? Like Martin Shkreli, he went and paid his dues, right? He went to prison. Now he's back. He's got hopefully a clean slate. This woman has not done any of that. She has not been to prison just yet. She's defrauded multiple people, many people. Many people lost their money. Many investors trusted her. Huge
Can I be
capital.
honest with you
Yes.
on that point? I don't blame her for that. I blame them. Especially the fact that she fooled, the biggest pharma
No,
companies
no,
in
Waleed,
the
Waleed.
world.
If you're very successful at like being a con person, it doesn't mean everybody around you is a fool. It means that you have
Well,
fooled people.
well,
Like that's a
yeah, but
crime.
still, like I actually give her credit for that. The reason I say that, okay, they didn't do their due diligence. You know what I mean? If she was to fool us, you know what I mean? Like shame on her because
No,
obviously
but
she's got
Waleed,
the higher
here's the
power.
thing. Here's the thing. Like, how many people like you? We talked about like Adrian Portelli. We talked about Martin Shkreli. But we like some of these people we know that can be successful, right? How do
Yes,
we know that? Like, how do we genuinely know that they are doing the right thing? Like, I can tomorrow tell you and promise you the world. I still think if
yes,
you're somebody who pretends to be somebody else, pretends to do something that you haven't done, and take
yes,
people's money and know that you're already a sinking ship, but yet continue to take somebody else's money while
yeah.
you're on the way down, I think that's, in my opinion, you need to go to, you need to be sued. You need to
I,
actually do
I
your dues.
completely agree with you. No, no, no. And what I'm trying to say is that what she did was bad. Okay, and she's a bad human being for doing that. You know what I mean? For playing the con game and everything. However, okay, you also have to blame the big pharma who are multi-billionaires who have, tons of lawyers. The fact that they fell for this, the fact that she was able to use, a fake agreement from one pharmacy company, one big pharma company to another big pharma company to basically get funding. that's the fault is on them because they didn't do their due diligence. You know what I mean? So like, she's a bad person for doing that. Whatever. If she broke the law, she deserves the sentence. But I don't feel sorry for the big pharma that fell for it.
No,
I
nobody's
don't.
feel nobody. It's not about so, but that's one person. Like there's a lot of normal investors that literally trusted their colleagues and said, "Yep." It's like a chain effect, right? Like, con people are actually known to like con multiple people, and eventually the
But
con
still,
gets
the
so
onus
big.
is on you. The onus
I
is on
get it.
you.
I
So
get it.
like, like I'll be honest with you. Like right now, Isana, if tomorrow you come to me because Martin Shkreli said, "Hey, listen, I want you to come and join my, Dr. Gupta.ai, and I want you to invest in it," and he somehow convinced you, and then you come to me, and if he cons me and you, the onus is on me, not you, because I should have done my
But
homework.
does that
You know what I
mean
mean?
like Martin Shkreli can walk out scratch free? Because that's
If
the
he broke
question.
the, no, 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 did he break the law? If
No,
he
but what's
broke the
happening?
law,
Yeah, so what's happening now is Elizabeth Holmes is basically like using this. She went on this interview with, I think it was the New York Times, and the whole thing was
yes,
about rebuilding her image. Right now, she's a volunteer. She volunteers at this
of
rape
course,
crisis hotline. She's
yes.
a loving mother of two. She's pleading this case to say, hey, don't go to look me up. And my issue with
Yeah.
that is, if she was a guy, or if she was somebody of, I don't know, certain color or race, I have a feeling she wouldn't have had the same preferential treatment. She would already be in prison.
I
She
agree
wouldn't
with you,
be.
but at the same time, like, are you surprised?
Well, it's not right. What do you guys think? Like, should she get
I think
another chance?
everybody on this podcast would agree and say it's not right. But what I think is that I'm not surprised at all because I'll tell you something. Do you know what her lawyers would be telling her, advising her to do? A,
What she's
she
doing?
will
What?
have to come up with a mental health problem. So therefore they'll say she's unfit to be in prison for that long. Okay. She's high risk suicide. She's a good human being. Like every single person who is found guilty, they'll be advised to do whatever they can to try and reduce a sentence. I'm not surprised by that,
No.
and so this is a common trend, no matter what the situation is, to try and lessen the sentence. That's not because I don't blame her for that. That's going to be the lawyers telling her to do that. You know what I mean? No honorable man is going to be like, yes, I'm going to take that because I really broke the law. They're going to try and lessen the sentence. Then these people are not honorable. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
they'll do whatever they can. Like I'll be honest with you. Like with Elizabeth Holmes, I never saw her as a bad person who's a threat who waged war on people. I think she's a con artist, and the people that fell for it were idiots. And if she broke the law, she deserves a sentence. And if she somehow manages to reduce a sentence because the law, allows it because she's a good human being, so be it. But
Fair.
does she deserve to be sued? I agree with you. She deserves to be sued and she deserves to be punished. But unfortunately, like, who is it recently that shot someone on set and then he was found not guilty? The actor.
Oh, I know the guy. Yeah, okay, but that's a mistake. He didn't do it on purpose. Hold up.
But the law is if you kill someone, you go to prison.
For
That's
no
the law. It's
reason.
black and white. It's black and white.
Even if it's like not even like an intentional mistake, or
So, so
like what if you were
if it's
like,
unintentional, it's manslaughter. Okay.
okay,
If it's
okay,
intentional, it's murder. You know? But basically, the sentence is if they say manslaughter, you have to go to prison for 5 years. That's it. It's manslaughter. Even so, tomorrow, if God forbid you're driving and by mistake you kill somebody, recklessly, not recklessly, sorry, just by mistake. Okay. That's manslaughter. Okay. And the law will say that it's black and white. Sorry. Okay. It's 5 years in prison, whatever it is. Now, what you're going to do, you're going to say, look, I've always had good behavior. I've never done anything. They're trying to lessen your sentence and everything, but it's black and white. So, but the actor, okay, what's his name? He got scot-free. He wasn't even found guilty. Alec Baldwin. He killed the person, and that's where it's sad.
so bad.
Like
That's terrible.
he
Yeah,
used his power and money, and he was found not guilty. You know what I mean? So
it's
at the
just
end of the
crazy
day,
to
anyway.
me. Like to actually put in like proper. Was it actual ammo? Like, did they actually put live ammo, and that's what happened?
It's an interest. I really don't know, but I'm assuming that would be the case. It's really, really crazy. So,
Why
like,
would
yeah,
they, what, who should go to prison? So whoever put that ammo in it, if it was real. You know what I mean? Like, that's like a huge mistake. Like, there's no reason in world that you should have an actual live ammo on set.
yeah.
Why would they ever do that? That
So
makes zero
basically,
sense. To me, that makes zero
involuntary.
sense.
Yeah, see, yeah. The sentence is manslaughter. That's what it was. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter in the fatal shooting. So, like, it's not intentional murder. But
I mean,
anyway,
obviously
it's
it's not.
interesting.
Like, that would be very cruel, of course, but like, last thing. What do you think about the Met Gala outfits?
Clowns, bunch of clowns. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I think the then entire Hollywood industry is going downhill. You know, people just don't care anymore, and it's just a bunch of clowns who are just trying to stay relevant. That's probably the best way to put it. People care more now about, you know, innovative and big things like AI and people who are changing the world. People don't care about a bunch of clowns dressing like clowns, walking on the red carpet, thinking that they're above everybody else. And that's my 2 cents on Hollywood.
Well said. Well said. Bravo. Bravo. Bravo.
All right.
All right. Should we wrap it up? All right.
So, actually, one last thing I want to say.
Yes.
I had a quote today. They say that most podcasts don't make it past the third or the fifth episode, okay? But a successful podcast, they make it past 21 episodes. So we got to keep doing this, okay? And we're not going to stop, okay? We all have busy lives and everything, but we're going to try and continue pushing a podcast every 2 weeks. And hopefully when things pick up, we'll try and do it on a weekly basis. So we're going to keep at it.
We'll keep at it. And honestly, if you're listening, if you're lurking in the background, you hear our voice but don't know what we look like, check us out on YouTube. If you do know what we look like, but you still love us and want to give us a big hug, the best way to do it is to find us on podcast. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast, and we're on YouTube. We're also on Twitter, we're also on everywhere else. But what we really care about is two things. If you find us on YouTube and subscribe, and if you find us on Spotify or Apple Podcast and you give us a follow, that's all we ask for. That's your price of entry for this episode. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. And next video, we'll talk about more interesting things. Actually, got some projects I want to talk about as well. So hope you can tune into that one. So if you want to hear it ahead of everyone else, if you want to get on top of AI before most people know about those stories about Elizabeth Holmes or whoever else, please give us a follow and like. And we'll see you all in the next podcast.
Thanks, guys. And thanks, Sam. I'll see you guys next time.
See you.